Welcome to or welcome back to the Ultimate Guide to Partnering. I'm Vince Menzione, your host, and my mission is to help leaders like you achieve your greatest results through successful partnering. This past week, I had the opportunity to speak at the amazing In Partner Conference in Miami, and what a great event it was. And many leaders come to me after I speak at events like this and ask me to tell more of my stories, explain more of how partners can achieve their greatest results versus just interviewing other guests. And so today we're going to do something a little bit different. Today we're going to flip the chairs, and I'm going to be interviewed by a great friend, Rick Van Bosch, the CEO of Chanext and the host of his own podcast, Unraveled. And today, Rick is going to ask me about my experiences being at Microsoft and how I see this ecosystem evolving and what organizations need to do now to achieve their greatest results. I hope you enjoy this episode as much as I enjoyed spending time with Rick Van Bosch.
Vince, how are you doing today?
Rick, it is such a pleasure and an honor to be here with you today. Thank you so much for hosting me.
Likewise. We actually recorded a podcast earlier together, but then it was on Ultimate Guide to Partnering. So I'm very excited to continue the conversation today and dive even further in the world of ecosystems and channel today.
You know, I love Unraveled because I think it's a great way to decode and talk about what we're experiencing in our world and our lives today. So excited for this conversation.
Likewise. I'm super curious also for our listeners, Vince, who might not know you yet. Could you elaborate a bit more on how you got acquainted with partnerships? And you've had an impressive career there. So I think it's definitely interesting to learn a bit more there.
So Rick, as you mentioned, I'm the CEO of Ultimate Partner and the host of the Ultimate Guide to Partnering podcast. Over 200 episodes now. We're in the 200 range now, which is kind of crazy. I started my career in the early days of wireless computing. I've described this career as 4 successful business transformations. I'm on number 5 now. And I started off carrying a bag as a salesperson, company that was in the early days of wireless computing before Wi-Fi. We were pioneers in that technology. I used partners to build an influence strategy to help us grow our market share. We went public on the Toronto Exchange. We had a successful exit. That company is now Zebra Technologies. I followed one of the leaders to go do a turnaround company that was at the brink of bankruptcy, and Golden Gate Capital had spun us out. And I built a new business, and that's where I started into the partnership world really fully. I was asked to build a government business. We were Panasonic's largest competitor. Panasonic was the market leader in selling into public safety and military, and we had a product that was equally as good. I built a channel strategy. I went down to Washington, D.C. I aligned with several of the largest technology partnership organizations, and I built that business incrementally. We had tremendous success. I was the growth engine. We sold the company to another company, General Dynamics, large defense contractor. It was at that point that Microsoft recruited me. And for almost a decade, I ran Microsoft's, we didn't call it ecosystem at the time yet. We called it partner strategy. But I ran the ecosystem for a $4.6 billion business within Microsoft for almost 10 years. And I learned quite a bit about partnering and ecosystems and all the different types of partnerships and what that meant to building a successful strategy for a large tech giant like Microsoft. I left at the end of 2016, and I was convicted more than ever that organizations struggled. I saw the partners that got it right. I realized a lot of organizations still struggled. Of the 400,000 Microsoft partners in that ecosystem, which is the same ecosystem that all the big tech giants really care about. It's really one ecosystem. And I started this podcast, Ultimate Guide to Partnering. I started doing consulting work for those organizations. I went back inside for 2 years to the largest software company and nonprofit. And I recognized at the C-suite level, there was still a lack of understanding and alignment around partnerships. And so when I left during COVID, I was convicted more than ever that we needed to solve for this. And so I've made it my mission now to help organizations achieve their greatest results through successful partnering, individuals and organizations. I want to empower the world of partnering. And I'm on a 10-year journey, a 10-year mission to help solve for that with Ultimate Partner. And we've expanded now from just being a podcast to doing digital and live events. We're going to be building a collective of organizations. We want to invite everybody that cares about the hyperscaler ecosystem to be part of that collective, because we feel that they need to have a stronger voice working with the big hyperscalers. So that's where I'm on a mission to help solve. I won't stop until the chief partner officer is at equal footing with the CRO, the CFO, and the CMO in the organization at the C-suite. And that's where we hope to get to.
I love that. And that's a super impressive career in partnerships, indeed. I'm very curious I think I can totally imagine, indeed, back in the days already at Microsoft, probably it wasn't called ecosystem yet, but I can imagine Microsoft is always the front runner in everything partner related. There
Yes.
probably were a lot of things that were actually already ecosystem, even though we weren't mentioning it like that yet. Like, could you maybe give some examples what you see right now? What are very hot topics in the market, which actually maybe Microsoft was already starting to work or really laid the foundations for at that time?
Yeah, in fact, we called it network back then. But I'm going to back up, because I feel like Microsoft created it at the very beginning. You and I talked about this once before. But when Bill Gates came down here to Florida to Boca Raton to meet with IBM when they created the PC, and they were going to buy his operating system, he said, "I'm not going to sell it to you. I'm going to license it to you." And they also agreed to license the hardware components. That sparked an ecosystem that created trillions and trillions of dollars of new incremental revenue in our industry. And it created, Michael Dell started building PCs in his dorm room, and Compaq Computer got started. And large reseller organizations in the United States, CDW and some of these others, started delivering magazines and doing direct marketing to sell you PCs and networking. VARs were created. The whole ecosystem was really spawned from that moment in time back in like 1981. Microsoft recognized that and they nurtured that. They realized they couldn't sell direct. They realized where their strengths were, and they didn't want to have 100,000 salespeople out there. They realized the leverage and the value of the partner network that they called it back in the day. And they also started to divide and conquer. Like, okay, they bucketized partners into specializations. They recognized that there were MSPs and SIs and ISVs and GSIs and so on, and learning partners and all the like. And they started nurturing and building a whole partner organization around it. And they've done a better job than anybody at aligning that and aligning salespeople to the success of the partner ecosystem rather than dividing it up and siloing it. And Microsoft is probably the most, I think it's either Gartner or McKinsey that says Microsoft's the most complex hybrid organization in the world. But they figured out a way to make this all work and integrate it so that a salesperson cares about selling a partner. There's partner people supporting it. There's partner development managers, and they have a division of labor within the organization I think is very unique in supporting that ecosystem. And then the Microsoft Inspire conference, which used to be the worldwide partner conference, was the seminal event that everybody went to every year. You know, I know that you have some family members that participated in that. I know they came over to the US to go to that conference every year. It was the happening. And then COVID changed all this, right? Now we went virtual, we went digital, and it's a shame in some respects that ecosystem hasn't gotten the nurturing and love that it needed before, which is where we came in. We came in and helped support that. We just hosted a live event in person. We called it Ultimate Partner Live, sparked the ecosystem, because we felt like that nurturing needed to happen, and it was an overwhelming success. I mean, I'm still getting people reaching out to me, telling me how amazing they thought the event was.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I can only tell from my perspective, but everyone who is interested in Microsoft in my network knew about the event. And I also saw it everywhere throughout LinkedIn. And I'm actually super curious. And I think that's actually so interesting to share with our listeners as well. I just said it already, but Microsoft is always the front runner. When you're in channel, when you're in partner ecosystem, we are always looking at how is Microsoft doing it, because we know that they have already tried and tested so many things. And if they launch it to the big public, then that's also where they are all in and moving forward there. And I was super curious about that, Vince. Would you like to share a bit more about the event, both in terms of how it was, but also definitely what are the top priorities right now of Microsoft leadership? Because I think we can learn a lot from that when we're building a channel or a partner ecosystem.
Yeah, I am so happy to share. I've described this time we've been living through as the tectonic shifts, right? We've been seeing in our world, our lives, geopolitically, all the things that have been going on. COVID accelerated transformation. Organizations invested heavy, but then we had the economic headwinds and they backed off. We've seen, tremendous layoffs in the last 18 months or so in the tech sector, which also has precipitated doing more with less. So I now do the job of 3 people. Microsoft did that too, by the way. They said like, well, we need to do this. So we came in and we said, you know what, you're not doing a live event. I had reached out. I've been blessed to have several leaders from Microsoft participate in Ultimate Guide to Partnering. We've been privileged to have some of Microsoft's top partner executives come use our platform as the place to tell the story, announce the new programs and things like that. So I was able to get some of those leaders in a room, and it was 2 days, 30 speakers, 16 sessions, both keynotes, fireside chats, and panel discussions, workshop type discussions, where we took and aligned to the 3 major priorities Microsoft announced at their Inspire conference. Of course, AI was priority number 1, right? I mean, Microsoft's investments in OpenAI and what they're doing with ChatGPT and Copilot. I mean, they're leading the way. Satya has been visionary in this respect, and they really, it's making a difference. You just see it in the stock price these days. The other big announcement they made, I mean, AI is going to infuse into every product and every technology, and they want everybody to build with them. The second one was around marketplaces. And we've been talking about this year as sort of the marketplace moment. AWS was out of the gate a little bit early, investing in marketplace selling, of course, coming from their retail background. And Microsoft is playing fast catch up. And this year they made announcements and said, if you want to do co-selling with us, by the way, between Microsoft, Google, and Amazon, there are about $300 billion in durable cloud budgets. That means that those 3 hyperscalers have gone to the enterprise customers and mid-market customers and said, buy these agreements for our cloud. And so they own those budgets, and they allow those clients to burn down those agreements by buying software from their marketplaces. So they've created a new channel. This channel with marketplaces is a new way for ISVs and SIs to sell their solutions to Microsoft, Google, and Amazon customers. So we focused in on that marketplace moment. We had the leader of the marketplace organization, Anthony Joseph, in the room, and we did a fireside chat talking about the benefits of marketplace. So organizations are really, it's still new for a lot of them. I feel like it was where we were 10 or 12 years ago with the cloud. People were kind of resisting the change, but the change is happening. And in fact, Canalys did a study. Our friend Jay McBain was part of that organization. They said $45 billion will flow through marketplaces by the end of 2025. They undercalled it. Jay said they undercalled it. It's going to be more like 50. And then Tackle.io, which is one of the big marketplace software companies, is predicting by the end of 2026, we will see $100 billion in sales and transactions flow through these marketplaces between the big 3. So we need to you need to get on the bus or get on the train because it's taking off, and we have to embrace that, right? That's the agility component of great partnerships and organizations. And then the third area of focus is really around the mid-market. And I was privileged that the president of Microsoft's small, medium, and corporate accounts, which is essentially its mid-market and SMB business, he was my keynote. He came in a big way and supported the event and really sparked the conversations. And that mid-market opportunity is huge. I know our friend Jay, we talk about Jay again, but our friend Jay and Canalys did some studies on the mid-market opportunity, and it's in the trillions of dollars. In Microsoft alone, they do about $75 billion a year in that mid-market, and it's only 40% penetrated for partners. So there's a huge, I'm calling it the acre of diamonds, like partners that are we know this, right? A lot of organizations only want to focus on the very big organizations. Those organizations get saturated at some point, right? Everybody's calling on them. This mid-market opportunity is huge. So it's the third pillar for Microsoft this year. And we brought in the leadership to speak to partners about how to be more successful selling into that market. So we covered all three. All the sessions revolved around those three pillars with Microsoft.
I'm so excited to continue our partnership with AG1. Many of you know I've made taking a green drink supplement part of my health ritual for over 21 years now, and it has made all the difference to my health and well-being. About 6 years ago, Athletic Greens and now their product AG1 became my go-to supplement. AG1 is the first thing I take every morning to power my day. It covers all of my nutritional bases, supports my gut health, gives a boost to my immunity and energy levels. If you want to take ownership of your health, try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/Vince M. That's drinkag1.com/Vince M. Check them out.
I think that's super interesting, and also very similar to conversation I hear from a lot of vendors that we speak to regularly in terms of what everyone is talking about, and we know we need to do something with it. And that's why I would love to dive a bit deeper into the specific 3 key points. And I'm actually going backwards from the one you ended with. Like, I think that's so interesting right now. Maybe first question, some clarification on mid-market. So do they call it mid-market, but is it a combination of SMB and mid-market end user companies together? And secondly, why do you think that area of SMB is so important, and why a company like Microsoft is so heavily investing in that area?
Well, like I said, the top of the pyramid, the enterprise organizations, which represents about 11,000 top organizations, the big organizations, the Coca-Colas of the world, the General Motors, all those big organizations. Like I said, they're dominated by big GSIs, global systems integrators, big projects, long sales cycles. It's hard to move through those, hard to navigate, and it's crowded. It's crowded at the top. In this mid-market segment, I'll use Microsoft's numbers here. They have about 38,000. I'll round it up. 38,000 accounts, right? That's a bigger chunk.
Yeah.
They haven't been good before at being focused in this area. Microsoft, I'll use Microsoft as the example. I think everybody's the same in terms of tech giants. They had a different operating model for each of their what they call operating units. So if you went to the LATAM region, or you went to APAC, or you came over to EMEA where you are, you find a different engagement model. There wasn't any universality. It was hard to navigate, and it was hard to work with the teams. And those teams were not as partner centric. They were just worried about selling licenses and selling what they had in their bag. Where enterprise knew it, they had to work with partners. They've changed the model now. They've centralized all the resources. So in the Microsoft world, they've taken the 6,000 employees across every industry and every geography at Microsoft, healthcare, name all the industries and name all the geographies. And now they report directly into this one individual, Kevin Piesker. And they have a regional model. They have 3 regions, the Americas, EMEA, and the APAC region. And those 3 models, they also have a corporate vice president structured, but they're centralizing, they're creating a methodology across, and they're also welcoming in partners more. And they recognize that they had a gap here. And so they're investing heavily. In fact, Microsoft, 75% of all the channel incentives from Microsoft this year are going into that wow. business, 75%. So it tells you they've made a huge commitment here. And like I said, there's 38,000. And then at the SMB level, there's 150 million customers at the SMB level worldwide. So huge opportunity for growth. And Microsoft's not going to touch those SMB customers at all directly. So the huge opportunity for the channel to go, again, this acre of diamonds, and great opportunities for growth. Think about taking an organization, any organization of any size, and implementing AI or all of these other rich technologies, helping ISVs and other SaaS software companies get to reach to those customers, and stitching it all together. Like we like to talk about the fact that the customer doesn't just buy one vendor. They put together a solution. They're solving a business problem, and it requires multiple organizations to come together to do that. So there's this huge opportunity in the work that you and I do to help solve for that. I mean, it's such a great opportunity for growth for all of us, Rick.
Yeah, 100%. And I think very impressive in terms of putting your money where your mouth is, like aligning 75% of your incentives to that part of the market. I think that that's a really big move and something that we all in partnership should be aware of, because Microsoft, like Satya, in my opinion, is the most brilliant strategic mind out there. So he won't be doing that without some very thorough thought behind making such a move. Like I'm interested in the piece there. Like, so we have mid-market and SMB, and then I can imagine mid-market is probably large enough that some of the direct sales of Microsoft can work on it, but they'll do a partner assist play. But from what I understand, SMB will be a pure channel play. So both the selling and the implementation and everything needs to be done by the channel.
What they've done in the mid-market is they call it corporate accounts. So these corporate accounts, these 38,000 customers, they have a one-to-many. So they have a direct sales rep. They have a swarm, basically. They've created a pod around those customers. So there's technical resources, there's selling resources, and there's partnering resources supporting a group of customers. And the ratio, where in enterprise, it's maybe like 1-to-5, 1-to-7, one rep for 7 customers. It's more like a 1-to-25 or 1-to-50 model, depending on the market and the specificity of the customer. So they are directly supported. But again, if you're calling on 50 accounts and in the course of a year and you have a big book of business to drive, you're not going to do that yourself. You need transactional partners that are going to help sell the software, the licenses. You're going to need systems integrators to help implement, support, project manage, do all those things. And you're going to need ISVs that are going to they're going to bring their marketplace transactable offers. So think about all of the SaaS software companies. You want to get into that marketplace because you want these sellers over here to say, oh, you have a backup and recovery solution. This is the one you should use. And they are, by the way, they're starting to use AI internally to be able to track the vendors and who's being the most successful and who has the best customer sat scores and the like. So I, as a seller now, have at my disposal a whole toolkit and also a pane of glass that tells me who I need to bring in and who can best support me on those sales. So again, this whole partnering strategy is just critical to success.
Yeah, it's all super connected to each other. I think also indeed tying it a bit more to the marketplace point, which is also very interesting. One of the words that struck me was like a little bit of reluctancy, which I also really notice in the channel, because we're all a bit scared. Because what Amazon, of course, did in the retail sector was cut off the middleman and go direct to customer.
Yes.
So I can imagine some of the reluctancy is coming from that angle, from specifically the channel. But how do you see that the channel is being? Because from an ISV perspective, it makes a lot of sense immediately. Marketplace, like you can bundle it, it's easier to buy from a customer perspective. But how do you see them tying in the channel? And also, what do you think, like, for companies looking at that and also trying to get their channel involved there as an ISV to scale operations? What are a bit of the arguments why it's also very relevant for the channel actually to collaborate there?
Yeah. And, well, the channels, I mean, we talked about the Boca Raton moment. The channel has had to evolve, right? Because if you're following the big tech giant, your models have changed, right? There used to be all of the incentives. I was very close to Microsoft's channel incentives program. So I know the numbers about what we spend every year. And it was in the trillions of dollars. It was in the billions of dollars, not the trillions of dollars. It was one of the largest line items, in fact, in terms of channel incentives. And that shifted, though. It's still there, but it shifted. It shifted to driving the right behaviors, and Microsoft will continue to do that, right? As we talked about with these channel incentives. Marketplace, if you were in the channel and you're used to a model that was different and you were making more money doing something else, and all of a sudden Microsoft or someone else imposes this new thing, you're a little bit reluctant, right? But there's other opportunities for growth, right? So you have to look at it and say, I might make a little bit less here, but I can make more here. And you're starting to see this evolution of the channel. One of them here in the United States, Insight, is, I would say they're forward leaning in terms of what they've been doing. They've been evolving their business to compete. They'll do the transaction work. They'll provide all the other services and resale and everything, but they are leaning more into the Accentures and GSI world a little bit more. And in fact, they made a major purchase just recently of Google's largest reseller and system integrator partner, SADA Systems. So you see that world evolving too, right? They're morphing their business models and they're embracing marketplace. Some of these organizations, again, you mentioned the reluctance working with Amazon, saying, hey, we know how Amazon operates in the retail world. Are they going to do the same thing here? And I would say proceed with caution. I would say Microsoft will continue to be the Microsoft of old in terms of embracing their partners. But they are creating this value chain that says we are creating value here because we have signed up these customers already. We're working at the C-suite level. By the way, those MAC agreements and cloud agreements that the three hold, those are negotiated at the CFO level of these organizations. They're not in the line of business, but it makes it easier now. It removes a lot of the friction from the process. So you don't have to go find budget to go buy your software. You just have to find a customer that likes your software and has access to a MAC agreement. So it changes the whole model up, and hopefully it'll drive better behavior. And the channel organizations are going to evolve accordingly. The same way the world evolved 12 years ago with the cloud, right? Everybody was selling Dell computers and Targus bags back in those days, and they still do. But nobody was selling cloud. They were like, "What is this cloud thing?" And it looks like it's a direct model, and you're going to buy directly from the hyperscaler. Well, that's changed as well. We've all recognized that that's created more value for these organizations to not only sell the cloud, but also wrap around services around that. And I think we'll see the same thing with marketplace.
Yeah, 100%. I think we could do a full extra episode on the consumption-based model and indeed how it works with that. Actually, the hyperscalers getting in at the C level, having huge contracts where you can highly benefit as an ISV because, yeah, it's almost like Microsoft or Amazon is going to pay you for the contract, but it's with credits that the customer builds up, etc. It's super interesting, right?
And it won't, yeah. And I want to just note here too, because we talk about the channel, right? It's not going to replace the channel, the model today, at least not in the near term. It becomes another channel, right? It becomes another channel to the customer. And the customer will buy various ways. And you just have to be agile enough to recognize that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one last question around the marketplace is like the examples indeed of Insight, for example, like joining the marketplace and working more around it. Those are almost what I would call like the GSIs or the really big VARs or the DMRs almost, direct market resellers. But for the SMB channel partner, do you also see a role there for the marketplace or less so?
No, just as much so. I mean, maybe at a smaller scale, but these organizations are going to provide professional services and support customers uniquely and more locally, right? And there's still that need. Like if I am a company in a certain geography, I have local relationships, and I like to go back to the 5 or 7 seats at the table to say who is influencing my decision process. And it may not be one of the big DMRs that we talked about. It might be a local systems integrator that you're comfortable working with. They now have the ability to bring to you everything you need, right? So it's enabling them more, in fact, to go do this through marketplaces, because now they have the full access to that marketplace, and customers aren't going to do this by themselves. We know that, right? This is technology. Especially smaller organizations are more challenged. They don't have the IT staff to go do it themselves. So I'm going to rely on my local and trusted vendor to support me in doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think indeed as a SMB channel partner, you might lose a little bit of margin when doing it in such a way, but you win it back as well because everything is in one invoice. It's very easy to manage. Like everything you would use to do with a distributor in the past now can be managed with a marketplace or a hyperscaler as well.
That's right. Very good point, Rick.
I love that. Then we get to the final point of AI, of course. And first of all, I want to say, like Microsoft all in on AI, big investment. They had some tumultuous weeks, but I want to do a shout out to Satya because that is true partnership. Sam Altman back at the reins of OpenAI, definitely not what I expected after it just happened. But then you can see, like, if you have a very strong partner and they have your back, what an effect that can have. And yeah, I think it's the best decision for OpenAI and for the AI continuation of innovation and progress there in general. So big
Yeah.
shout out there. But I'm also super curious to learn indeed, like, what do you see there in terms of the AI? Like, of course, we know why AI is so important, but I'm also super curious, what role does Microsoft see there for their partners in terms of bringing that AI to the market? They've done the big investments. They've
Yep.
worked insanely hard. I'm super impressed in integrating AI in all their products and in Bing, in Office, in Teams, in everywhere, in Azure. Like, but what then? Now it's, I think, up to the channel to bring it to market. Like,
Yes.
what's their strategy there, and what do you think that are some of the roadblocks they might see there?
Well, first of all, to call out to Satya there, right? That was a master class in strategy, like what he did with Sam. Um, first of all, he was blindsided, right? That I mean, the board didn't even let him know until minutes before they announced it, which was crazy. And then he took the high road, and he said, "Well, how do I best support this? I want to support Sam. I want to support OpenAI." He brings Sam on board on a Sunday, right? Sam he sets up a new business unit. By the way, almost all the employees said they were going to leave. So he knew that, like, if OpenAI isn't going to do it, they're all going to be Microsoft employees. And then he positions it so Sam can run back into the CEO or get back into the CEO slot, which was just incredible. Now, on the product side, what you're seeing, I mean, Microsoft has been the productivity suite, right? And we go back, I mean, let's look at Office as a crowning example, and M365 now, and all of your productivity offerings and suite, everything is infused now with AI, or is getting infused with AI. There were big announcements and releases in early November. We're continuing to see things. They had their big Ignite conference, the ability to infuse all this technology. The role of the partner stays pretty much the same in that regard, right? Because these are organizations that need to embrace and deploy these technologies. They will do that. There will be additional roles for GSIs and SIs of any size and shape to take advantage of the toolkits that are available in Azure AI, and you can go on with the list of Microsoft acronyms and names. But being able to take that technology and deploy it locally, people will want secure GPTs. They'll want the ability to do their own and not be in the public domain. So the ability to implement those is going to be a huge opportunity. In the ISV and SaaS world community, well, I mean, I want to infuse this technology into my offerings, right? So there's the opportunity for those partners to go do that and then to implement that. So it's creating more opportunity for partners of all types to take and infuse that stack into organizations, right? And we're just at the beginning. So I can't even predict where it's going to go, but people are talking about this as even probably the biggest thing that's happened in the last 40 years, right? Maybe 50 years since the chip. Right.
Yeah.
We went through the PC era. We went to the client server era. We went to the internet era. We got to mobile computing. We got to cloud, and now we're in AI. And it's going to be a wild ride these next 10 years.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah.
Really, indeed, like the pace at which everything is progressing. I'm very curious to see where that's going. And a question that comes to mind immediately with me, it's such a new technology. Like, we need to, but also it's progressing so quickly, and that will keep the same pace probably, or only grow exponentially from an innovation side. What strategy does Microsoft have in place to actually make sure that their partners, both the ISVs and the channel, can actually easily message that and take that message of AI, but also the implementation, etc., to the market? Do you see any potential blockers there or challenges for Microsoft?
Microsoft is putting out a lot. In fact, once we have the content live, I'd love people to come see like the videos and some of the things that Microsoft showed at our event. But I mean, they want the partner world to embrace it. What I would say in terms of blocker, I would say one thing I will say about Microsoft, even as a former employee, I'm still people like Brad Smith, who's president of Microsoft. There's an ethical level within Microsoft that you don't see in most, if not any other technology company, that they will do the right thing. They've always professed the cloud for good. People like Brad wrote a book called Tools and Weapons, and he sits at the forefront of Microsoft's aim to ensure that we do this in the right way, right? And Microsoft, again, being a partner-led partner, they took the word AI. If you know this, they changed the name of the partner program in July. In fact, we had Julie Sanford come on to the podcast and talk about this. They changed the name of the program from the Microsoft Cloud Partner Program to the Microsoft AI Cloud Partner Program. So they've infused AI into everything, including the name of the partner program for the 400,000 partners, which tells me, and with the channel incentives and everything that they're doing, that they're leaning in more heavily. I know for a fact that they are quintupling the size of the technology groups supporting AI. They had a team of black belts, as an example, here in the United States, that was a fairly small ragtag team, maybe 20 people. They are going 5 times the size of that organization just to support customers here. And they're doing the same things around. But Microsoft's view is we bring the technology in when we bring the partner and the customer together, and we go solve for it together, which has always been their approach.
I love this. Yeah, it just, you can really see that Microsoft is always one step ahead of where they should, or multiple steps ahead, let's say it like that, of where they want to go and where they are going. And that's what you can clearly see with this as well. And again, also with things like that, I can also highly advise that to our listeners. Like, if you launch something, launch it big. Like, look at Microsoft, such an enormous company, but when they launch AI, they implement it everywhere. So everyone will know in their ecosystem how important that's going to be for the upcoming 5 to 10 years, or in this case.
And even their executives, Kevin Peasker, when he spoke at our event, says, I spend at least a half hour every morning studying what we're doing on AI, practicing it, implementing it, getting to know the product better. This is the president of a $75 billion division of Microsoft. He's spending time there, which tells you the whole company is focused on this. And to your point too, I think a lot of others were caught flat-footed. I think that there were a lot of people in other places, in Silicon Valley in particular, that were getting into the rooms and going, what do we do now? What's our strategy going to look like? They were just so caught off guard by Microsoft's announcements. It's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome, Vince. I think this really was a pure masterclass on where the partner ecosystem and channel is going. We've spoken about how important SMB and mid-market is going to be if you want to keep your growth rates that you had in the past as a tech company, because the enterprise market is getting saturated. So you need to really get that opportunity. We talked about how to really work together with hyperscalers and the opportunity with marketplaces. And AI, how can you best implement it? How can you leverage the AI that Microsoft is working with? I think it was super valuable. I definitely want to get you back later, Vince. And thank you so much for sharing this with our listeners.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Ultimate Guide to Partnering. Online at ultimateguidetopartnering.com. If you like this episode, I'd be thrilled if you left us up to a 5-star review on either Apple or Spotify. This helps us to continue to feature amazing guests. Also, please check out and subscribe to our new YouTube channel, Ultimate Partner. We'll catch you next time on the Ultimate Guide to Partnering.